So this is lesson 4.3, and this is the last lesson that will be on your test, okay? Just so you guys know. Okay, so take your highlighter, and I want you to highlight the word quadratic, okay? Was this section highlighted that was on the midterm or the final? And is it just a times 1, or what was it?
Times 1. We just highlighted.
Both of them times 1. Okay, so if we just highlighted it's a time 1. But still, it was on both tests, so kind of important. Okay. Okay, so quadratics. You guys, what is a quadratic? You really should know. What is a quadratic? It's a parabola. Yep, let's write that down. Okay. So everybody write down the word parabola. And the equation would be y equals x to the, tell me. Quadratic, second, yeah? And then, of course, there could be more things over there, but the point is you've got an x squared, okay? Okay, so if you look at this one right here, f of x equals 5, and they ask you the degree. To find the degree, you take the x, and you look at the biggest exponent that the x has. Well, there is no x, so that would be like an x to the 0. Because x to the 0 is a 1, 1 times 5 is a 5. So the degree of that thing right there, guys, is a 0. Look at the next guy. This x right here has a 1. So the biggest exponent that the x has is a 1, and that's degree 1. The first one is constant. The second one is linear. So this guy right here, the h of x, it has degree 2 because that's the biggest exponent. And that's a quadratic, and that's what we're going to deal with today is parabolas, okay? Okay, so here's standard form of a parabola. But what I really need you to know, you guys, I need you to know the vertex form, okay? So everybody write y equals a times x minus h to the second plus k. So a lot of the times, not all the time, but a lot of the time, you're going to manipulate it and get it into that form if it's not already, okay? So your parabola might open up and it might open down, okay? So let's draw one that opens up and let's draw one that opens down. We don't draw sideways, we don't graph sideways parabolas in this class, just up and down, okay? The vertex of the parabola is h comma k, and you get that from that equation. H comma k. The axis of symmetry, well, first of all, look at these that are opening up and down. So this vertex right here is a minimum, and this vertex right there is a maximum. So sometimes it's a min, sometimes it's a max. And then if you look at this graph that I drew right here, guys, that has a minimum, if I drew a line right there, and on that guy, if I drew a line right there, that's the axis of symmetry. So let me just show you something. Look right here. This vertex would be h comma k. Okay. So that orange line right there hits the x-axis. Where does it hit the x-axis? At whatever value that is right there. So if that was like 1 comma 2, then the axis of symmetry would be x equals 1. If it was 2 comma negative 3, the axis of symmetry would be x equals 2. Same thing over here. It doesn't matter if it's a min or a max. The axis of symmetry is always x equals and then whatever that value of h is. Okay? Who says I understand that? Raise your hand. Let me see. Okay, wonderful. Okay, so this is a review problem. Okay? We're just going to do transformations. I want you to remember, I feel like I didn't stress this enough, so I want to stress this one more time. Come over here and write number 1. So when you're graphing these graphs that you know what the parent graph is, the first thing you always do is you graph the parent. Okay? Then the second thing you have to do, if it's there, is what? Do you know? It's important. What do you have to do? We wrote it on our notes. Nobody remembers. Go ahead. You're exactly right. Thank you. It's a reflection. Thank you. The third thing that you have to do is a what? It's not. Think of the order of operations. What do you do first? Do you add and subtract first on the order of operations? Those are clear down there, right? So this right here, number 3, is a stretch or a shrink. And then number 4 is everything else. Up, down, right, left. You have to follow that order, okay? Okay, so let's do this. Everybody, we're just going to graph the parent. Let's write down the equation. It's just y equals x to the second, okay? Let's quickly graph that parent. So pencil at the origin, right one up one, left one up one, right 2 up 4, left 2 up 4, graph in the parabola. Okay, I need everybody to answer me, okay? There are over 30 people in this room, and I need to know that you understand, because your test is this close, okay? Do I have a reflection on this equation right there? Everybody tell me.
No.
I don't. Why don't I?
Because the x is positive.
No what in there? Tell me. No negatives, okay? Yeah, you have a -3. That means subtract 3. That's different. So no reflections. Do I have a stretch or a shrink?
Yes.
I do, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let's do the stretch. Let's just do the stretch by itself. Okay, so normal stretch is 1, 1, 2, 4. That's normal. I'm going to stretch it 2 times taller. So instead of 1, 1, I'm going to do 1, tell me, 1, 2. Instead of 2, 4, I'm going to do 2, 8. Okay, so everybody go pencil at the origin, and then go right 1 up 2, left 1 up 2, right 2 up 8. Now I can see that I'm off my grid, right? It's fine. But you know what you have to do, guys? You have to make that graph narrow. You cannot, this is wrong. Watch me do this wrong. Watch. That's wrong. Remember we talked about that? Because I hit that x value of 2 way too soon. It was supposed to be 2, 8. And I did like 2, 4. So just make it narrow is all you have to do, like that. Who says I understand? Okay. Talk to me about the -3. What does that do? Down 3. Now, normally I'll give you a separate grid. Okay, I didn't. It's okay. We'll just do it on the same grid. Okay, so I'm going to go down 3, make a dot, and then the stretch is 2. So I'm going to go right 1 up 2, left 1 up 2, right 2 up 8. And that actually puts me right on the edge of my grid that I've got right there. So I draw it in, and there's my graph. Okay. Maybe take your highlighter and highlight the final answer or something, just so you know. Hey guys, I want to say something right here that I really need you to understand. Weber State, there are certain things that Weber State is like very picky about. And if you do it, they will literally make me take off every point. If you do this to this graph, it's a minus every single point. Why?
Because it's curving in.
It's curving the wrong way, and it's not a what anymore, everybody?
Parabola.
It's not a parabola, and it's also not a function. It's going to start failing. It already is failing the vertical line test. So just please be so careful, because that makes me so sad when I have to do something like that. And I know that you know what you're doing. You're just getting too fast with it. Okay, so just be careful. Okay, so this right here we pretty much already talked about. And this right here, I know that we talked about that as well. So if A is bigger than 1, it's a stretch. And if A is less than 1, then it's a shrink. I actually want you to take your pencils, your pencil, and I want you to add absolute values around that A. Don't let that freak you out. This is what this means. You don't even have to you don't even have to write this down. Just watch. Is that a stretch or is that a shrink? Which one is it? It's a stretch. The absolute value means don't look at the sign. It just means look at the number. So that's actually a stretch. Okay, look right here. Stretch or shrink? Shrink. Who cares about the negative? The negative flips it, but it doesn't affect the stretch or shrink. So that's a shrink. Okay, who says I understand? Okay, good. Okay, so x-intercept, y-intercept, like we've done this like already probably 5 times. So all you have to know to find the y-intercept, let x be a 0. To find the x-intercept, let y be a 0. Sometimes it's a little more complicated. Sometimes you're going to have to use a quadratic formula to solve a quadratic. Sometimes you're going to have to factor. You guys know how to do all those things already. Okay? Okay, let's go ahead and do question 2A. You guys, what I like to do, because we were so picky on how you write things, when I start the problem, you guys, look what I do. I say my y-intercept, I'm going to let x be a 0, and my x-intercept, I'm going to let y be a 0. Everybody in the room shout this out for me. Which one's easier to find, the y-intercept or the x-intercept? Tell me. The y for sure. I'm not even going to make you show any work. Because look what you do. If x is a 0, this goes away and this goes away. And what do you have left? An 8. Like literally you don't even have to write anything down at all. Okay? So what about when y is a 0? Everybody write down x to the second minus 6x plus 8 equals 0. This is the first time we've solved a quadratic. What's the easiest way to solve a quadratic? Factoring. You know what else is super easy? Look right here and don't write this down. If that 6x wasn't there, and say the 8 was a negative, I'm just kind of changing the problem. That doesn't even factor. You would pull your 8 over and then do what? Square root. I think that's the easiest. But you can only do that when you don't have an x to the first. So on this guy, if you do have an x to the first, you are correct. The easiest is to factor, okay? So let's factor it. So it's going to go to an x and an x. Signs are the same. They're both negative. 4 and 2 multiply to give me 8 and add to give me 6. So that's what it factors to. If I set that equal to 0, I get x equals 2. If I set that equal to 0, I get x equals 4. That's not how I write my answers. Remember, they have to be ordered pairs. So I'm going to write it as 2, 0 and 4, 0, and we're done. That's it. Okay, who says I totally get this? I'm good and feel great. Okay, y-intercept, x is a 0. X-intercept, y is a 0. Yes, honey?
Do you not have to put a u? I'm confused.
Okay, so I'm glad you said that because you're not the only one. A couple of people have said this. The only time you're going to write a u, is when you have a number line and you've got multiple intervals that you're listing. The only time you're going to do it. Okay? Not increasing, decreasing, constant, nothing. Number line. Okay? Okay, good. Okay, if x is a 0, I don't know why I keep coughing. If x is a 0, those go away. I get a 6. I'm done. Nothing to show. To find the x-intercept, I'm going to let y be 0. So I have 2x to the second plus 8x plus 6 equals 0. What would you do right now?
Divide by 2.
You could divide by 2. I think it'd be better to take out a 2. Okay? Do you have to take out a 2?
No.
You don't, but it's much easier if you do. So let's factor out a 2. If you do, you're left with x to the second plus 4x plus 3 equals 0. Now you factor what you're left with, and that goes to an x and an x. You guys, see this equals 0 right here? Everybody look forward for a second. Some people start doing this kind of stuff, and they start factoring. Keep factoring with me. Let's keep going. I'll talk about the equals 0 in a second. Signs are the same. They're both positive. 3 and 1 multiply to give me 3 and add to give me 4. You guys, look at that third line I've got right there. That's like an incomplete sentence in an English class. It's not done. You haven't finished your thought. What do I need to do to finish my thought? equals 0. It needs to be there. Okay, now I want everyone to look right here. If I multiply this times this times this and get a 0, one of them has to be a 0. Could the 2 be equal to 0? Everybody tell me. No. Is it true that I'm always just going to disregard that, whatever's out there, and it won't give me a solution? Is that true? That is false. What could be out there that would result in a solution? Some kind of an x. That would give me a what, everybody? A 0. Good. X plus 1 gives me x equals -1. X plus 3 gives me a -3. I write those ordered pairs, -1, comma 0, -3, comma 0, and I'm done. Okay? All right. Completing the square. Okay, before we start, I want you to listen. Okay, just relax for a second and I need to say something. I don't think that this has come up. Are any of those completing the squares, like example 3? Is that highlighted?
No.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen this for a while on the midterm or final. Just because I haven't seen it. I think they keep like recycling things. So they don't put it in for a couple of semesters and they're going to put it back in just to kind of keep us on our toes. So it can get difficult. The reason it gets difficult is because people don't follow the steps. What else was I going to say? Okay, about 3 semesters ago, this is important, so I really need you to listen. Some people in their previous math classes were writing the work down in a way that was unacceptable to Weber. I was looking at what they were doing and I'm like, what in the heck are they doing? And then I figured it out. And I took a picture of it and emailed it to Weber and said, is this acceptable? And they said, no, it is not acceptable. Because what you were writing was mathematically inaccurate. So some of you don't like to change to my method. And I'm telling you on this, if you don't change, you're going to get burned because that's what happened. So, and your teachers previously are wonderful. I just needed them to know that Weber State was not accepting the work in that way. So just be aware of that. Write it like this, long story short. Okay, step number 1. Take the constant, which is a 1, and move it to the left side. Okay? So everybody write down f of x minus 1 equals x to the second plus 8x. Okay? Step number 2. Step number 2, factor out the leading coefficient if it's anything other than a 1. You guys, the leading coefficient is the number in front of the x to the second. There's nothing there, so it's a 1. So there's nothing to factor out, okay? And what I want you to do on number 2, I want you to write add blanks, okay? So I don't have to factor anything out, but I do have to add my blanks. So everybody go f of x minus 1 plus blank equals x to the second plus 8x plus blank. Step number 3, divide the linear coefficient. You guys, the linear coefficient is 8. It's the number in front of the x to the first. That's linear. You divide it by 2. 8 divided by 2 is 4. And then you square it. 4 to the second is 16. So I must see you write a 16 there. And I must see you write a 16 there. That's kind of where we were faltering in the past. Okay? Balance the left side of the equation. That's what I did when I added the 16 to the left. Step number 5, simplify the left. So it's f of x plus 15 equals, and factor the right. Okay, now I want you to watch how sweet this factoring goes. See this x a second? You're always just going to make it an x. See this plus right here? You're going to duplicate that right there. And then you take this blank, which is a 16, and you square root it. The square root of 16 is a 4, and the whole thing is squared. And people are like, how did I get, look guys, from here to there? We factored, okay? Everybody just sit and watch. You don't have to write this down. X plus 4 squared That's x plus 4 times x plus 4. Then if I FOIL it, it's x a second plus 4x plus 4x plus 16, which gives me exactly what I had right there. So all I did is just factor it, okay? And then the last step is to move the constant back over to the right. So your equation would be f of x equals x plus 4 to the second minus 16. 15. Thank you, honey. 15. Okay. Underneath that, I want you to write y equals a times x minus h to the second plus k. So your stretch is normal. It's just a 1. You guys, do you see how the x's line up? But do you see how those are opposite? So your h is not 4. Your h would be, can you tell me? Negative 4. Your value of k is negative 15. So your vertex would be negative 4, negative 15. Your axis of symmetry would be x equals negative 4. Okay, let's do some more nice and slowly, okay? Okay, example 3, and then we're going to graph it as well. Find the vertex axis of symmetry. Okay, stay right with me, okay? Step number 1. Okay, let me just ask you this first before we start. Am I going to have to factor a number out on the right-hand side? Is there anything in front of the x squared, guys? No. So do I have to factor anything out? No. So I'm going to go f of x minus 8, because that 8 comes over, plus blank. I'm going to add my blanks right now. I know I don't have to factor anything out, so it's x to the second minus 6x plus blank. All I did was move my 8 over and add blanks. Now I take my 6, I divide by 2, and I get a 3. I raise it to the second, and I get a 9. So you must write plus 9 plus 9. I know what you're going to say. Here's what Lexi's going to say. She said, you said you take 6 and divide it by 2 and get a 3. 3 the second is 9. That's not a 6. That's a negative 6. Why didn't I say this? Negative 6 divided by 2 is a negative 3. And negative 3 to the second. Why didn't I say that, Kennedy?
A negative that gets squared just becomes positive.
It's going to be a positive anyway. So just throw out the sign and make it easy on yourself. That's what you're going to say. Isn't that weird? It's like this thing I can do. It's so strange. Okay, so on the left, we have f of x plus 1 equals. On the right, we're going to factor, and it's an x. See this middle sign right here is a negative. Square root of 9 is a 3, and the whole thing's squared. And now solve for f of x, so it's f of x equals x minus 3 squared minus 1. Okay, underneath that, everybody write y equals a times x minus h to the second plus k. Look, guys, x's line up, negatives line up, so h must be 3. And my vertex is h comma k. So my vertex is 3 comma, the value of k is negative 1. You guys listen, you don't have to do that. X's line up, negatives line up. You don't really have to do that. You just look here at the vertex form and you say, that's a negative 3, change the sign. But you don't change the sign of the k. Axis of symmetry always is x equals. The x equals has to be there. X equals what, everybody? 3 is correct. Okay, now let's graph it. Pencil at the origin, go right 3 and down 1. Guys, does my parabola open up or down? Up. And is it a normal stretch or an abnormal stretch? Normal. So you're going to go right 1 up 1, left 1 up 1, right 2 up 4, left 2 up 4. Draw it in. Be very careful you don't swing the wrong direction. And that's it. You guys, look at the work that you have on your paper right now, would you please? This step, this step, this step. Does it look identical to mine? What was omitted, like this 9, your teacher wasn't having you write, and this 9, there were multiple things that were missing, and they're not going to take it. So make sure what I have is what you have on your paper, okay? Okay, let's do another one. This one's going to be much tougher, okay, just so you know. Step number 1, take the 15 and pull it over. So everybody go g of x plus 15 equals negative 3x to the second minus 12x. Now you look at the number in front of the x to the second. See that negative 3? It cannot be there. So whatever's there, whether it's a negative or a positive, whatever, you take out exactly what's there because the whole thing can't be there. So everybody write down g of x plus 15 plus blank equals negative 3 parenthesis. When you take out a negative 3, do you see these signs right here, guys? Do you see this negative, negative? Those signs are going to change to positive, positive. Because when you distribute a negative, it switches the signs. So 3 divided by 3 is a 1x squared. 12 divided by 3 is a 4x plus blank. I know that I'm right. Look right here and let me show you something. You don't have to write this down. If I were to distribute a negative 3, then I have negative 3x to the second minus 12x, which is what I had up above. So I know I did that right, okay? Raise your hand if you're completely with me. Show me by a show of hands. Okay, now I want to ask you a question. Well, I'll tell you the question, I'll answer it both. Some people are like, okay, I see you took out a negative 3, but this guy and this guy also both have an x. So why didn't you take out an x as well? Well, if I took out an x, I wouldn't have an x squared anymore. And how can I complete the square if it's not squared? So don't take out the number, just take out, don't take out the variable, just take out the number, okay? Okay, now watch this closely. Linear term is a 4. Divided by 2, you get a 2. Raise it to the second, you get a 4. So this blank is a 4. This blank over here on the other side, it's not 4. They don't match anymore. Someone tell me what it is.
Negative 12.
It's a negative 12 because it looks like you're adding 4. But if you distribute that negative 3 across this whole thing, that plus 4 really becomes a negative 12. So you're really subtracting 12. So this is a minus 12 right there. Okay? So now I'm going to simplify. So I have g of x plus 3 equals negative 3. And now I'm factoring this guy. You guys, the factoring's so easy. Look, you got an x. This sign's a plus, so this is a plus. Square root of 4 is 2. The whole thing's squared. Pull your 3 over. G of x equals negative 3 times x plus 2 squared minus 3. This is called vertex form right there. Okay? Down below, they ask us to list our vertex and axis of symmetry. I'm just going to list mine right here. You can write yours, wherever you want. Okay, so vertex, the h is here, the sign negative 2. The k is here at the end. Negative 2. The k is at the end, negative 3. Nice. Just lost my recording. It's all right. But I don't think it's going to connect. Give me 2 seconds. Sometimes if I just shut down the projector, it will reconnect. Oh, I'm still recording. That's good. See how loud it sounds? It does this thing once in a while. And I tell my awesome IT guy, and he's like, it never happens in front of him. I know. I think it might be overheating, but it never says it's overheating. you show me how much we have left?
So we've got this page. And then
Page and a half.
yeah,
And plus finish what we've got. Okay, thanks, honey. Come on. Okay, great. We're back. Okay, so there's your vertex. Axis of symmetry is x equals -2. You have to have the x equals with it, okay? Okay, now let's graph it. So everybody take that pencil and go left 2, down 3. Put a dot right there. Does your parabola open up or does it open down? It opens down. Normal stretch or abnormal? Abnormal. It's how much longer than it was before? 3 times. So instead of 1, 1, it's going to be 1, 3. And I know I'm off the grid and I'm sorry about that, but you can get, the general idea. And it looks like that. Okay? All right, let's keep going. Now, actually, you know what? Come back up for a second. And I want you to make note of this. Graph each function. See right here where it says, by finding the vertex form. So highlight that right there where it says finding the vertex form. And I want you to write like up above it, complete the square. If it says put it in vertex form, they want you to get it in that form, and you do that by completing the square. But look at the ones down below right here, guys. So it says without putting it in vertex form. So without putting it in vertex form, okay, write a note to yourself that says -b/2a. So it's a completely different form. It's a completely different process that does the same thing. But you have to read carefully so you know which route you're supposed to go, okay? All right. So, max or min. Everybody listen. You guys know a vertex is either maximum or minimum, depending on where it opens. So that's basically the vertex, okay? So everybody go H, comma, K. I think the notation that's in that box is scary to some of you. You look at and you're like, what are they saying? Well, look what they're saying. Guys, look. Here's your H, and it's represented by -b/2a. So all you do is you find H, and you do that by letting it equal -b/2a. Write that down for me, okay? And then to find K, which is your Y, someone tell me what that pink notation in that box means. F of -b/2a. What does that mean? You just plug it in. Yeah, it's not scary at all. You just plug it in. What's it? You plug in your H that you just found. Okay? Okay, let's go ahead and do this. Here's your parabola. Without putting it in vertex form, everybody write down ax squared, put y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. So your a is in front of the x to the second, it's a -2. Your b is in front of the x, it's a -4. Your c is at the end, it's a -2. So now to find the value of h, you just go -b/2a. So you go negative b, which is a -4, -4, over 2 times a, which is a -2. You guys, 3 negatives. If you have 3 negatives that are multiplied and or divided, what's the final sign? 3? It's negative. 3 is odd. If you have an odd number of negatives, it's a negative. An even number is positive. So that's going to be 4/4, which is 1. You could put it in your calculator, but I don't think that's necessary. So what you know now, guys, is the x-coordinate of the vertex is -1. How do you find the y? That was that pink highlighted stuff. You just plug it in. So everybody go h of -1 equals -2 parenthesis, -1, close it off, squared, -4 parenthesis, -1, close it, -2. I want everybody to freeze for 2 seconds. Don't do anything on your calculator yet, okay? I want to teach you how to store, okay? Look right here. This calculator will store numbers, and it's super slick, okay? Everybody punch in the following numbers with me. So H is a -1, okay? So look what you're going to do. I'll point to the calculator when I do it, okay? So everybody hit this white negative button, and then hit the number 1. And then on the left side, second from the bottom, hit store. And you see how the A is underlined? Hit enter. So now the calculator thinks that A is -1. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this original equation in my calculator. Here's how we do it. Hit the white negative button. And then hit 2. And then hit membar, left side, third button up. Then hit enter. Then hit x squared. Then put in the blue negative button, 4, membar, enter, -2, enter, and you get 0. Okay, who says, I got 0? Let me see. Okay, do you have to do that? Nope, but I think it's going to save you time eventually. We're going to do this more and more and more. So what that tells me is that my vertex is -1, 0. What's the axis of symmetry? It is x equals what, everybody? -1. Do you have to have the x equals?
Yes.
Yes, you do. So everybody go to -1, 0. That's right there. I know that's my vertex. Well, I can graph it right now. Does my parabola open up or does it open down, everybody?
Down.
It opens down. And look right here, normal stretch or abnormal? Abnormal. So it's 2 times steeper. So instead of 1, 1, it's going to be 1, 2. And instead of 2, 4, it's going to be 2, tell me guys, 8. And that's just one value off my grid. And you should draw all those points so that it's nice and accurate. Be careful that your graph doesn't swing back in. Okay. Notice I didn't answer x-intercept and y-intercept until I graphed it. It's way easier to get those off the graph than to do it algebraically. Okay. Look at the graph. What's the x-intercept? -1, 0. What's the y-intercept? 0, -2. Super important. I want you to answer that question right there. Maximum value. That's highlighted, huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
Maximum value. The answer is not -1, 0. That's not the right answer. Who thinks they know what the answer is? Here's the kicker right there. Value. If it says maximum point, you write it as a point. If it says value, what do you do, honey?
It's x equals -1.
Okay, let's think about this. Just a second. Look right here. Look at that. Look at that graph. Look at that high point right there. This is going to help you to never make that mistake. Look right here. Is that the highest x or is that the highest y? Which one is it?
Y.
It's the highest y because the x's go this way and they keep getting bigger. So it is y equals what, everybody? 0. Yay. Okay, so you guys are awesome. Okay, you're going to get it. Okay, here we go with this one. Don't put it in vertex form. So you go h equals -b/2a. Some people miss this question because they don't have -b/2a memorized. They do like -2b/a or something weird and the whole thing's over. So it's -16 over 2 times 8. You guys, 2 negatives. What's my sign?
Positive.
Positive. That's 16 over 16. Oh, this is 2 times 4, sorry. 2 times 4, not 2 times 8. So that's 16 over 8, which is a 2. So I know my vertex is going to be 2, something. Do I have to write work on the paper to show how I get the y value, yes or no? Yes, I do. So everybody go, f of 2 is equal to 4 times 2 squared minus 16 times 2 plus 10. You could store the 2 in, or you could just put it in like this. Who says I'd rather just put it in like that? Raise your hand. Who says I'd rather store? Okay, most people are saying just like that. Okay, so let's do it. Everybody go 4 parenthesis 2, close it, x squared, minus 16 parenthesis 2, close it, plus 10, hit enter, and I get negative 6. Look how I've written that work. Okay, so now I know my vertex is 2, negative 6. Axis of symmetry is x equals 2. Should I try to find my x-intercept and y-intercept right now? No. If it's a sweet, nice point, you can get it off the graph. So let's do that. Go right 2 and then go down 6. So it's right there. Look at the number in front of the x to the second. It's a positive. So I know it's going to open up. So guys, look. Normal is 1, 1, 2, 4. But I have to stretch it 4 times taller. So now it's going to be 1, 4. And then it's going to be 2. Tell me, guys. 16 is correct, okay? So let's go right 1, up 4. Right 2, up 16. And I gave you enough points to do that. My graphs on your tests and quizzes are always going to be a good fit for the graph. Okay, it'll be nice like that. So if your graph is like clear off the grid on a test or quiz, you're probably doing something wrong. Okay, x-intercepts, ew, they're not good. So I'm going to skip it. Y-intercept, x is a 0, and y is going to be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10, is that right, guys? Okay, minimum value, everybody tell me what that is. Y equals, what is it? Negative 6. Good. To find the x-intercept, you let y be a 0. I have to do it by hand because they're not clean. Do you see how this is not perfectly, in one of the corners, right, of that grid? Okay, so everybody write down 4x to the second minus 16x plus 10 equals 0. I'm going to set myself up with a y value of 0. Now I just have to find the x. Look at the equation. You tell me what you would do. What would you do? I'll wait until you guys tell me. Right? What specifically would you do? I would take out a 2, for sure. Get those numbers small, and it's going to be easier. So if you take out a 2, you're left with 2x to the second minus 8x plus 5 equals 0. Is it going to factor? Can you tell by looking at that thing if it's going to factor? So does it factor, yes or no? No. It doesn't. So then the answer is none because it doesn't factor. Is that right? No. What do you do? Quadratic. Go off to the side. Everybody write x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay. Someone tell me what page we're on. 29. Okay. Freeze for 2 seconds. Okay. Does the bell ring at 5 after? Could someone look up there? 6 after. Okay, so I can do something right here. Okay, everybody look and listen. If you're writing, I want you to stop. And I want to show you something. This is really very powerful right here. It's going to save you so much work if you can look and listen. Okay? I'm going to take this guy. Okay? Maybe don't highlight him, but just draw like an arrow right there. Okay? And I want you to say a equals 4, b equals negative 16, c equals 10. I'm going to apply the quadratic formula using those values, okay? So everybody go x equals negative b. That means take your 16 and change the sign. I'm not making a mistake, okay? Square root, negative 16 squared. Do not write it like this. Everybody look right here. Do not write it like that. I don't even want you to write it like that because people mess up on that all the time. So I want you to go 16, hit x squared on your calculator, and you get 256. I always want you to go straight to whatever that value is squared because people mess up on it all the time, okay? Minus 4 times a, which is 4, times c, which is 10, all over 2 times a, that's 2 times 4, which is an 8. Okay, everybody look forward for 2 seconds. I did two things wrong. One is annoying and one is points off. Someone raise your hand and tell me something that you see. Thank you, honey.
The crap, I forgot what it's called.
Square root.
It doesn't cover everything right.
And do you think that's annoying, Kennedy, or do you think it's points off?
That one's annoying.
It's annoying. So I'll extend it in red and tell you don't be sloppy. There's something else that's not right. What is it, honey?
The divide by 8.
And
Divide everything.
And that's a big deal because is that front number 16 or is it 2? So that's a deal breaker right there. So be really careful, okay? Now I want you to grab your calculator and I want you to put that right there in your calculator. 256 minus 4, parenthesis 4, close it, parenthesis 10, close it, enter. So now you have x equals 16 plus or minus the square root of 96 all over 8. Am I done?
No.
I am not done. What do I do right now? Come on, guys.
Simplify the square root.
Break down the 96. Yes, everybody write down 96. 96 is 2 times 48. 48 is 2 times 24. 24 is 2 times 12. 12 is 2 times 6. 6 is 2 times 3. These two 2's come out as a single 2. And these two 2's also come out as a single 2. So what I have now is x equals 16 plus or minus. On the outside, I have two 2's, which is a 4. 2 times 2 is 4. On the inside, tell me what I have on the inside. A 6, and that's all over 8. How many people are in this picture, guys? Tell me. 3. Person, person, person. Can I reduce? Yes. See the square root? It's never changing. See the plus or minus? It's never changing. The things I'm looking at are this guy, this guy, this guy. Is there something that goes into all of those? 4. So it's going to be 4 plus or minus 1 square root of 6 all over 2. Done. That's awkward. Full credit, but awkward. What's awkward?
Plus or minus.
The plus or minus, I mean, we're going to get into that, but there's something like weird. What is it? The 1. The 1's not necessary, and so drop it if you know how to do that. Okay, now here's what I'm trying to show. Don't turn, we're not done. I don't think that was super easy. I think it was kind of involved, okay? Look what I want you to do. See this guy right here? I want you to take an arrow and I want you to put it right there. And now I want you to go, A is 2, B is a negative 8, and C is 5. So my numbers are half as big as the other one. Okay, everybody freeze. How do you think the final answer on the right is going to compare to the final answer on the left? What do you think? They are exactly the same. They are exactly the same. And I'm going to prove it to you right now. Okay, everybody go. X equals, write it with me. Negative b means positive 8. Plus or minus the square root of a negative 8 squared goes straight to a 64. Minus 4 times 2 times 5 all over 2 times 2, which is a 4. Grab your highlighter or grab your calculator and put that stuff in exactly the way you see it. And you get x equals 8 plus or minus the square root of 24 all over 4. Break down the 24. So 24 is 2 times 12. 12 is 2 times 6. 6 is 2 times 3. These two 2's come out. So you have x equals 8 plus or minus 2 square root of 6 all over 4. Can you reduce it? Yep. You're looking here. Look, person, person, person. 2 goes into everything. So it's 4 plus or minus 1 square root of 6 all over 2. I got the exact same answer. Now, the guy on the right isn't that much easier, but I still think it's easier. Who says yes? I agree. I think it's easier. Okay, 2 things I want to say. Flip it back because we're not done with that. Just a quick summary. If you have this that you have to apply the quadratic, and you take out a number, always use the smaller numbers because it's easier. We were supposed to write this as an x-intercept, which is an ordered pair. So everybody write down 4 plus the square root of 6 all over 2 comma 0. And then write down 4 minus the square root of 6 all over 2 comma 0. And that's how you have to write your answer. Okay? Okay, last problem in 4 minutes. A company has found that the revenue in dollars from sales of cell phone is a function of the unit price in dollars that it charges. If the revenue is given by this equation, what unit price should be charged to maximize revenue, and what is the maximum revenue? Okay, I want every single word problem you ever do in this class to begin with x equals y equals. Because the reason that people miss it is they get mixed up. What stands for what? And then you're saying, why are you saying x and y? Because there's not even an x and a y in my problem. I understand that, but your brain thinks in terms of x and y. You're always thinking x, y, x, y. What it's solved for is your y. So y is your R of P, which stands for the revenue. The x is represented by the letter P over on that right side, and that stands for price. Who says, I understand exactly what you're doing? Okay, great. Read the question. What unit price should be charged to maximize the revenue? There's a word sticking out to you. It's screaming at you in that sentence. What's the word? It's maximum. It doesn't matter if it says maximum or minimum. You know why it says maximum, guys? This is a parabola that opens down. And of course the vertex is going to be a maximum. If you read max or min, what do? Negative b over 2a. So you go negative 1900 over 2 times negative 1 over 2 is exactly negative 0.5. So I'm going to put that in just like that. A negative over a negative is a positive, so I know it's going to be a positive. Grab your calculator and punch it in exactly how I tell you, okay? Don't do it on your own. Do it how I tell you, okay? 1900 divided by 2 times 0.5. I didn't do signs because I don't need to. Enter, I get 475. That's wrong. It is not 475. What did I do wrong?
Parentheses.
If you have 2 things, the negative, you don't worry about that. I already figured out a negative over negative is a positive. I'm done with those signs. It's the fact that you have 2 things on the bottom. Now let's do it right. Actually, before you clear it out, look at your screen. Do you see how, this is what your calculator did. Look, your calculator went 1900 divided by 2, multiplied the whole thing by 0.5. But this guy's supposed to be down there. Who says I understand? Okay, everybody go 1900 divided by parenthesis 2 times 0.5, close it off, hit enter, and you get 1900. What does that stand for? That's the x coordinate of the vertex. What does that stand for? Price. What unit price? That's your answer. Read the next question. What is the maximum revenue? They're asking me for the what, everybody?
Y.
The y. What do I do?
Plug it in.
Plug it in. Everybody go R of 1900 is equal to negative 0.5 times 1900 squared plus 1900 times 1900. Grab your calculator, negative 0.5 parenthesis, 1900, close it off, x squared, plus 1900, parenthesis, 1900, close it off, enter. Don't pack up. 2,888,000. What's my label? You have to have a label. Dollars. We're talking about money. Okay, that's it. Who says I understood that lesson? Let me see. Okay, you guys are awesome. Get your homework done. If you're behind, if you're missing assignments, you better get caught up, like before you come back on Thursday, or you're going to be freaking out. Okay? See you guys. Have a wonderful day. You're awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was perfect.